Hello, ladies and gents. This is US military just hit Iran's most strategic island as Iran strikes Kuwait's airport. Now, the main point here is Iran strike Kuwait's airport. The images are circling around of civilian airport properly decimated. People injured because people... Is this where we're at now? Iran is just going to point blank attack a civilian Kuwait airport where there are people there. There you go, one Google away. Look at the image. Look at the escalator. Look at the destruction there. Right? Here in the left, here in the right. There are people here. Imagine this is airport. Imagine it is airport. Imagine but people are walking around and this happens. What? This is another line that is being crossed, and I don't think people are really understanding this. This is just one of those news. Oh, I guess another Iran thing happened. No, this is not just another thing happened. So this video is going to be interesting about the detail and what strategic island US hit. Let's do this one.
Morning, everybody. It's June 3rd, 2026, and Iran just bombed a civilian airport in Kuwait. This is the footage of it right here.
Oh.
Not a military base, not a radar installation, not a drone control site, an
I don't know why I showed you the photo. Of course, Max is going to show the video.
international airport. Terminals full of passengers, airport staff checking boarding passes, all legal targets according to Tehran. One person is a casualty with 63 people wounded, serious injuries across the board. This is the passenger terminal that's been structurally damaged. And there's a sequence of events here. This is not just the fog of war. This is Iran's foreign ministry.
Okay, I don't like that number. One seriously hurt, 63. No. Much more people are hurt psychologically. PTSD level element. Things like this stay with you forever. So probably every single person that was there got affected and scarred for life.
Basically showing the entire world that they're not afraid to target civilians and vital facilities. Again, they did it 1,000 times during Operation Epic Fury, and now they're just doing it again. And then Iran's foreign ministry told Kuwait that they bear direct and clear responsibility for hosting US forces. So
they did it 1,000 times, as exaggeration I'm guessing, during the Epic Fury, but around that time there were warnings. There were like advance, like, oh, let's close the half of the airport, or let's close the airways. Airports were closed when they were stricken. This airport was properly functioning. There was some instances in Dubai where airport was struck, but again, they were struck in a place where movement wasn't that high. This is in the center where people are walking around. You saw the image and video. Like I said, this is a line that's being crossed. It's like what is next? Just commercial complexes, shopping malls? Is that what's going to be next?
let me translate that from diplomatic IRGC speak to plain English. Iran just bombed a passenger airport and then blamed the country they bombed for getting bombed. I mean, at this point, I think it's pretty clear that the IRGC is just a reincarnation of all of our bad exes gaslighting the entire world. I think we all can see that at this point. But in this video, we're going to cover the full 24-hour sequence of how this all went down, because remember, nothing happens in a vacuum and every ripple has an impact. And then coming up about 3/4 of the way through the video is the global roundup. We'll be covering a hard-hitting story, some other breaking news that you need to know. But ultimately, Iran fired at 2 U.S. military headquarters last night. They missed both. They got frustrated, and so they hit the airport. The IRGC called it a proportional response, but what I think it really was the IRGC General Salami sitting at a targeting desk, feeling a little bit insecure, feeling like he needed to compensate a little bit for some reasons. Maybe his hoagie wasn't quite as big as he was hoping it would be. Oh, foot long? Nope. 6-inch sub? Nope. 2-inch sub? Yeah, that's about right for General Salami. So it's kind of clear that Iran got frustrated and fired at an international airport. But here's something that you need to know, the sequence of events. U.S. forces struck Iranian targets on Qeshm Island on June 2nd, specifically an Iranian military drone ground control station. This could have been done with F-15Es.
Oh, so that's the one he's talking about. All right. Look, man, Qatar and Dubai, all this, what is it called? League something. The nations all needs to do something. Either talk it out with Iran, or there needs to be a deterrent response. because this is irreparable damage. Someone like me probably will never go to like any of these countries in the future, but for vacation visit or anything. Something like Dubai and things, in my mind, that's like now off limit completely. The damage is done. This could happen anytime. Like imagine the first time Dubai was struck. Nobody there in their wildest dream even imagined like Dubai can be struck. Imagine their mentality. I'm never going to be the first in situation like that. So I'm never going there. And you know there are a lot of people who are going to think like that. So tourism will take a hit because of this. And for what? Because these countries had US bases, that's it. These countries even said like we're not going to allow US to use our bases, and they still got hit.
And F-18Fs. These are both amazing strike platforms. They are built with 2 seats, so they have a weapons systems officer in the back of the F-15E and what's called a RIO in the back of the F-18F. They're used to go in, strike, find targets using advanced targeting pods. The F-15E has a sniper targeting pod. That thing can basically see a license plate from miles away. The exact range is classified, but very capable US system there that can go in, find these targets, and strike like that. And remember, the F-15E can carry that 5,000-pound bunker buster bomb, can also carry 2,000 pounders and the GBU-54. This could have been the main weapon used on striking these different drone control facilities. Because remember, the drone control facilities are typically built into the ground. Their communications infrastructure is a fixed target. And the GBU-54 can act as a JDAM, hitting pre-planned coordinates, or if the weapons systems officer in the back turns on the laser, the GBU-54 will follow the laser. So if they were going after any moving targets as a part of this strike, they could use that GBU-54 for both. Hit the different drone ground control facilities, and then if you want to hit fast attack craft, you want to hit any trucks that might be carrying drones or ballistic missiles, now you have the ability and the versatility to do that. Because Island. When you look at the imagery of this island, here's some things that we're learning that are very interesting. There's underground facilities here, tunnels that connect different sides of the island, basically an underground ant farm of IRGC headquarters that's operating underneath that island. So
how is that interesting? I think everybody knew that. US already knows that. I guess the entire island being connected, I don't know. Maybe there are like tunnels connecting some tunnels, but entire network connected. I don't see that happening. That's a lot of work.
This to me is one of the most strategic choke points in the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, just look at it. Look how close it is to the Strait of Hormuz and how many radio towers are on this thing. Seeing that many radio towers to me makes me think this is the nerve center of all control over the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the IRGC's got backups, but this to me is one of the main places that US forces will likely be focusing on over the next few weeks. But CENTCOM had an official statement after this on June 2nd. They said US forces successfully defeated multiple Iranian ballistic missiles and drones and conducted self-defense strikes on Qeshm Island in response to attempted attacks by Iran across the Middle East. 2 Iranian ballistic missiles fired at Kuwait fell short and broke apart in flight. 3 missiles fired at Bahrain were intercepted by US and Bahraini air defense systems. Bahraini, you guys know what I mean. CENTCOM's closing line here.
So 2 missiles got broken apart by its own without getting intercepted. That's just effed up, man.
No US personnel were harmed. CENTCOM forces remain vigilant and ready to
I never even thought of that, but can missiles even do that? I guess if they're not very maintained, right? Because 2 got broken apart in the midway and 2 got intercepted. All right.
defend against any unwarranted Iranian aggression during the ceasefire. And then something wild happened. Later on June 2nd, a second strike. The IRGC confirmed U.S. forces crushed IRGC communications towers in southern Qeshm Island. Qeshm is not a random target like we just talked about. Military analysts call it the IRGC's primary denial hub, a fortified island at the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz with underground tunnel networks. Hitting this island is very strategic, and hitting it could take away the eyes, take away the targeting data, and basically make Iran's drone swarms fly blind. But the trigger this morning is also that U.S. forces have disabled a Botswana-flagged oil tanker that was heading towards Iran's Qeshm Island. Again, the focus also moving towards Qeshm Island, all these different oil islands. This was standard blockade enforcement. Likely a hellfire went through the engine room to make the vessel stop, but more reports are coming in on that, and I'll keep you updated as that develops. Iran's answer to all of this is what they're saying was striking the terminal in Kuwait. IRGC simultaneously claimed that it struck the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. That's what they posted. CENTCOM posted one word on X that tells us everything we need to know. False. So basically debunking the Iranian claim. So it does look like to me Iran is getting very frustrated not being able to get a lot of these missiles through to U.S. military-based targets. So they're going to shift to civilian infrastructure. So
If you didn't hit something, don't say anything and it's fine. Why you have to lie and put out like fake images and things like, look, we destroyed this base, and when then it gets debunked? Isn't that embarrassing as hell? Because if some guy on the internet does it, it's a different thing. An entire controlling arm of a country like a government or like IRGC, right? They do it. Isn't that embarrassing? Like, really? You're just gonna lie like that's it? So you can't hit it, but you're gonna lie? Because we already established, USA will tell you if something happens. They did that recently in many elements, like, yeah, this happened. Okay, this got destroyed. This didn't work properly. They do that all the time. If they did hit, like the US's base, they would have been like, yeah, we intercepted few of them, but few got through. They would have said that. They're saying false, which means it didn't happen, right? And so, and somebody would have captured some video footage. It would have made it into like Instagram, like look at the fireball from the US base. So why lie like this? It doesn't make sense.
Speaking of the IRGC, remember Sun Tzu said, know your enemy and know yourself. So let's know them. Also, you guys should know that I'm writing a book called The Art of Modern War. And in the Art of Modern War, knowing yourself and knowing your enemy is most important because it puts you in a position where you can fight the new enemy that every leader must conquer. And that comes from knowing yourself, knowing your weaknesses, knowing your strengths, and knowing the battlefield you're fighting on. And you can apply these principles to your personal life and your professional life so you can crush it at whatever you're up to. I really wanted to write a book that took the strategies of warfare, what we're seeing going on behind the scenes with 4D chess, and incorporated that with the fighter pilot mindset of how to use those principles to crush it in life at whatever you're up to. So head to that website right there. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's maxafterburnerbook.com, mabbook.com. Go there so you can get pre-ordered for the book. I'm currently in the final phases of writing it right now, and I think you'll really get a lot out of it. To recap all of this, Iran launched drones and missiles at civilian passenger airports. They took out a civilian, wounded 63 people, and now they're just showing their stripes. They're showing that the zebra can't change its stripes, and they're going to continuously target civilian infrastructure. The structural vulnerability of their position can't be understated at this point because they're basically showing they can't hit U.S. bases in a way that they want to. So now they're going to lash out at civilian infrastructure. That's just the way that they're going to go. That's going to be their focus. So in Tehran, it kind of looks like this is what winning looks like to them. They think they're getting some massive propaganda victory by hitting the airport in Kuwait. But really what they're doing is just bolstening and strengthening the resistance of the Gulf partners against Iran itself. But now let's talk about the actual targeting chain that went down. We talked about the F-15Es, the F-18 Super Hornets being on the offensive, striking those targets on Qeshm Island. That would be a very well coordinated orchestra-like sortie where you take off, you
I stumbled upon one of the videos. I'm not going to say the channel's name because I don't remember it, but it's also one of the big channels who talks in the other direction. I think it's an American channel, but I don't know, who basically criticize US military and, like usually have like Trump's faces like, like Trump was stunned and this and that. Like, I mean, okay, look, Trump was not stunned because it's everyday thing. Like some new event comes like, oh, Kuwait was hit. Trump was stunned. Why White House was hit? That's why Trump was stumped? What are you talking about? So like something is such a clickbait. It's like, who is falling for this? And it has decent view. And I saw the comments. Anybody even says anything remotely outside of that, they don't argue that, right? See the comments. They just throw insult like, oh, this and that, and just insult. There is going to be no discussion. Because they don't have anything to discuss, or maybe they can't discuss because lacking the capabilities of that. I don't know. But it's just point blank at Trump is that, okay, you don't like Trump, good for you. I don't care about politics or politicians. How are you going to argue that Iran is a formidable enemy against US military? US military is a different thing. Trump will be gone and US military and all its structure will still be there. Pentagon will still be there. The entire defense structure, US military will still be there. US military is one thing and political spectrum is completely another. Why people can't see that? When you're criticizing, you're not criticizing Trump, you're criticizing US military. And you can criticize military. But don't just make things up and show half truths, right? And show the only small part of the picture and carve a narrative out of that, again, like US military screwed. Just like the Mach said right now, people will paint this as a victory. Like, look at that, Iran is so powerful, they hit a civilian structure. Yeah, but they couldn't hit the military base of US military. What about that one? That's the main thing here. They couldn't hit the US military, so they hit a Qatari civilian base, which was undefended. Obviously, it's a civilian base, not a military structure. But people will paint it, oh, see, US military is screwed because Iran struck Kuwaiti civilian airport. It's like, how would you want to debate someone? And do you want to debate someone? Because these people will find any way to just say this shit. I'm learning more and more like the level of divide it has become in basically United States. This is insane to me. Find the fact as close as you can. Don't find biases. I can see that because, like I don't have biases. I don't care either way. But when a witness is insane, like how far away, and sometimes maybe I refuse to believe somebody could be this stupid. So I'm like, this is malicious. They're deliberately painting this picture, even the people in the comments, because they just want to believe this. They hate Trump, so they're hating on the US military and painting Iran as some powerful force the US military can't fight. That's just insane, man.
Join up 4 F-18s, 4 F-15Es, and now you just start to pick targets. You basically split the island in half, and each formation owns one half of the island with pre-planned targets going in, striking those, having the weapons systems officers in the back, making sure that they can dial in and target exactly what they're trying to hit, whether it's an underground bunker, drone storage facility, or underwater unmanned vehicles would be one of the focuses there. And then these 8 jets or so, whatever the case was, they roll in and basically decimate as many targets as they can on the first wave, and then you spin back around and you look for any squirters. Squirters would be like a vehicle or other targets moving around after the initial strikes. Yeah, squirters is a technical military targeting term, just for the record. And then when it comes to striking down the ballistic missiles, remember the SM-3, that standard missile, this engages ballistic missiles in the boost or the mid-course phase before terminal descent even begins. That's kind of like the first layer. And then the mid layer would be the Patriot PAC-3. This is what the US Army is flexing incredibly hard right now with undisclosed locations all around the Middle East. I look at this as kind of like the mid layer, and then the outer layer of missile defense architecture would be that THAAD interceptor, which is basically a massive telephone pole made out of metal that doesn't even have a warhead, that just collides with any ballistic missile and takes it down cleanly. But then there's a close-in layer.
What? That's THAAD? Hold up there. No, THAAD looks like this. Like your Sam Wood. Right? So I don't know what this is. Obviously he means that the one, it doesn't have a warhead, but it's still a missile. Launched from a missile, yeah.
Collides with any ballistic missile and takes it down cleanly. But then there's a close-in layer as well called the CWIS, Close-In Weapons System for Short-Range Air Defense. Phalanx Close-In Weapons System is a very capable radar-directed 20mm Gatling gun. Yeah, it's pretty epic at this point. This thing can handle drone swarms if they get inside a missile intercept envelope. You made it to the global roundup, my friends, and there's one main story that I wanted to cover with you today, and basically Russia is threatening NATO's Baltic states. Russia just said that the Baltic states' NATO membership won't protect them, with Moscow's OSCE, that's their envoy, stating the alliance is very close to direct military confrontation. So why could this be happening right now? Well, Russia...
True though. Remember, Trump is pissed off at Europe and NATO in general, same thing. So if NATO and Russia friction happens, are you 100% sure Trump will be there from the get-go? Like, yeah, we're here, article, this and that. We are NATO. most of the NATO kind of relies on America, even though other countries also have a real stake in it. And they have F-35s, they bought it. But without USA, maybe this is one of those situations where, yeah, Russia can't fight NATO, but is NATO strong internally? So Putin might be seeing fractures and finding perfect time, but you don't have resources to fight Ukraine. How are you going to fight anyone else? Doesn't matter if they're strong or not right now. Even if they have an internal fracture, how are you going to fight NATO? I mean, I don't understand that. It's just one of those threat thing, hoping that NATO backs down. I don't know.
Russia could see that the U.S. is focused on the Middle East, and the U.S. is focused with their interceptors and THAAD missiles on Iran, so they might see this as a window of opportunity for them to go in and gain ground in negotiations, potentially gain some ground in Ukraine. That's their number one goal, is to cause disunity within NATO so that NATO stays distracted and then they can do whatever they want in Ukraine, in my opinion. And that brings us to the 40 chess strategic analysis section. So let's talk about what Iran actually wanted to accomplish last night. And it's not what the IRGC press release says at all. IRGC has a fundamental problem right now at the negotiating table. The 14-point framework being discussed includes pausing Iranian enrichment for 12 to 15 years, gradual blockade relaxation, and sanctions relief. Tehran can't accept any deal that makes them look weak. Remember, looking weak to them makes them think that they could be ousted out of power, like completely ousted out of power, with a massive civil war potentially being on the table in Iran. Their own foreign minister, Abbas Agharachi, said this publicly. This war is not our war. We didn't start it. The United States started it and is responsible for all the consequences. He's like, yeah, we never did any proxy operations around the globe. We didn't want to extort an international waterway. Again, I think it's pretty clear at this point that Iran is just the world's bad gaslighting ex. But Iran wants to frame everything like they're showing strength. They want to demonstrate that they're still in the fight and they're still capable of inflicting costs before they can sign anything, because they don't want to trigger some sort of domestic political collapse, which might be inevitable at this point. But they're trying to avoid that as long as possible by looking like they're still in charge while their country basically crumbles before their eyes. $500 million a day.
This is a race between authoritarian power and democracy. Whose will breaks first? Even though those are not equal, democracy is much richer and powerful with insane history and reach, while authoritarianship is not rich. They even have a water problem, let alone food problem, and they can't really do anything against the opposition. But the factor is, doesn't matter if it gets really bad, if IRGC can keep the control, if people don't revolt, they can weather it out because they don't really care about the people. Like if there is a famine, if there is like a problem like that, it happens. How many famines happen in North Korea? It happens and they'll just walk away. While USA, if gas prices fall below a certain level, what do people like? Impeach Trump, remove the entire thing, remove the military generals as well. Let's bring in new one and let's walk out of Iran. So this is an interesting time. If you are the most powerful military and richest military, would that matter if internally you don't have will to fight? Because there is that element, like fighting usually only works if it's for your survival. And you would argue that this is for your survival because of the nuclear weapons. But nuclear weapon is one of those things like you can't really see it. Maybe it was there, maybe it wasn't there. I don't have any evidence. That's the feeling, right? I believe it because Pentagon says it, but like I didn't see it. So if you don't see the threat, if you don't feel the threat, are you gonna be like strong? Like let's. I have a will to fight. So this is interesting time, man. We'll see like which domino falls first. Who's like, oh, this has gone on long enough, let's back out. And I think IRGC is counting for that as well. Like there will be a time where Trump will back down because political pressure has risen too much.
Being bled out of the IRGC is just insane, and I think we're seeing a lot of the frustration right now. So what was last night? Last night was a negotiating move in Iran's mind. Every drone launched, every missile fired, every airport terminal damaged. Is Tehran saying to Washington, this deal needs to be worth taking or we're going to keep doing what we're doing? You want the Gulf calm? Make the terms worth signing for the Iranian regime and keep the Iranian regime safe. That's what they want. The airport attack specifically is Iran raising economic cost, global airlines are now rerouting. Oil markets are probably going to respond to this as well. Lloyd's of London war risk premiums are obviously going vertical for any ships trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz.
Gas is most likely because LNG and LPG, basically, that's the main thing from Qatar, right? So that will be the big issue.
So this isn't military strategy. They're trying to inflict economic leverage and pain on Washington. And it's just clear to see that they're totally willing to target civilians to do that. 1,000+ attacks on civilians, them hitting this airport, and they want the US to remain distracted and think they're the good guy, trying to negotiate it and get a good deal. They want that front-facing Western look with guys like Egarachi to make it look like they're negotiating in good faith, where behind the scenes, it's hardline IRGCs, mullahs, and ayatollahs that are basically continuously just trying to get a deal that taps along the world and allows them to not make any changes and pursue what they want, just like they did before Operation Epic Fury. And also, the IRGC just said they were defending the dignity of the Iranian people. Yeah, they're like, we're defending their dignity. Meanwhile, they're like, hey, let's take 6,500 of them and arrest them for no reason. And let's go ahead and kill tens of thousands. But yeah, we're ultimately defending their dignity. Yeah, Iran's like, yeah, this is for their dignity. They're like, yeah, everybody just go in, stand on this red X. We're here protecting your dignity. It's kind of like at this point in the Oppenheimer movie where he's like, I am become death. This is kind of like the biggest quote from the IRGC at this point. This might as well be their slogan. So Iran bombed a civilian airport last night because it missed every military target that it wanted to hit. Looks like the IRGC is compensating for something. I'm pretty sure at this point that not only are they going to target more civilians,
Super duty, all right. So there was heavy duty, this is super duty. I'm guessing this is F350 or something, like even higher number than that, F550 or something. What is this? It is Ford, right? Or is it Chevy? No, it's Ford. I don't know. Yeah, it's Ford. Yeah. This is basically a truck. I mean, not pickup truck, truck. What would you call it? Lorry? What would you call it? It's properly truck this time.
Infrastructure. Every IRGC guy at this point is probably going to go out and buy a truck with massive tires. So thanks for watching, guys. What do you think happens next? Let me know in the comments.
Look, man, I'm just going to say I blame Middle Eastern countries, Qatar, Dubai, and all that. You should have bought a lot of interceptors. Look, man, Pakistan has a stronger military than Iran. Maybe Iran has more missiles, maybe, but Pakistan is stronger, has better technology. Pakistan has planes like J-10C, which is like 5th gen planes, stealthy planes. How better they work, I don't know, but it's still high-end planes. A lot of American planes, right? Pakistan could have bombed the hell out of India. They couldn't because India had a lot of interceptors. Indigenous, bought from somewhere, Israeli tech, even Russian one. India basically took interceptor from all around the world, lined them all up in the border, and not a single one of them went through. 99.9% of all of them got intercepted. Only few fell after being intercepted. And that's again Pakistan. Pakistan is stronger military than Iran has, right? How do you not have interceptors, right? None of this would have been much of a threat if you had strong interceptors. Even Strait of Hormuz wouldn't have been this risky if you had strong interceptors. Because a lot of missiles that would have been launched in Strait of Hormuz would have been countered by these interceptors. Only few of them, very low one, might have gotten through. But right now, Strait of Hormuz is just open season. Anything can fall. So insurance is way too high. Even the civilian structures can get bombed and you can't really stop it. So all that money, all those Lamborghinis, all these Bugattis that I constantly see in Instagram reels, you should have bought Patriots and Thards, man. American would have given you, right? American would have given you Thard. American would have given you Patriots, a lot of them. You have some of them, but that's just insane. You should have bought like 10 folds more. There you go, Bill. US military just hit Iran's most strategic island as Iran strikes Kuwait's airport. That's just big, man. Kuwait's airport, like the civilian structure that destroyed. Yeah. Right, well, I'll see you next time.